That'd be right. Leave meeting. Got it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Coaching RoundTable with Isobel and Daniel, my co-hosts. I'm Ashley Drew, and it's been a while, and it's been a while for some good reasons. Isobel?
Yes, hello. It's been a while because, yes, I was out of the country for a bit, and I mean, I'm sure we could have still done a podcast, but I had a few other things happening and on my mind, so yeah, so we can chat all about that in a minute.
How did you sneak out of the country? I didn't think anyone could leave.
No, believe you me, it was an expensive process that involved a lot of testing. But yeah, considering we never isolated once to avoid COVID, we didn't get COVID in any country, and we were all hunky-dory to travel everywhere we wanted to travel.
Awesome. That is excellent. And Daniel, how about yourself?
I'm good. Yeah, good. Not at my since we spoke, it hasn't been as exciting as Isobel's adventures, but it's been good. I got to have the a very 2022 experience, and my whole family got COVID. Ashley knows all about that as well. Yes. And so 2 out of 3 coaches in this podcast have had the big COVID. Sorry, I should call it little C. Yeah, yeah. But no, it was all right. Other than that, it wasn't too bad, but we're just trucking along. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I qualify for my 4th booster, so that's coming up. Awesome.
Nice.
I am getting used to meetings.
Why?
I have a compromised immune system.
Yeah, but you caught COVID anyway.
Oh yeah, you're still going to catch it. It's just a
so if you already caught it, why would you need another booster?
It will increase my T cells or some cell, and then I will, when I catch it again, it won't be as severe. That's the theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll just add it to my drug load. The fact is I'm on a few.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So today's episode, we're talking about a few things. We are going to touch on your adventures, Isobel, but and also I think I guess like we have done the last few episodes, talk about what we've all sort of been up to generally, but primarily we want to touch on like returning to running, because Ashley, you're making great steps forward with your running and getting to a point where you can run, which is pretty exciting. And but I think before we go on, I just want to say, because we haven't mentioned it yet, congratulations, Isobel, on your engagement. So
yes, there we go.
Oh yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, it reminds you that although running is really important, there are other things in life as well. You know?
Yeah.
What?
I know, right? Who knew?
And Ron did it did you do it near the start line
No. There was a few days before, just when we were sitting around the campfire, you know, so just us. Yeah, so it was nice. Yeah.
It's good.
Awesome.
And having someone who has a common interest helps, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh my God, it makes life a lot easier.
Yeah. Oh, well done. Just like a couple of young lovebirds.
Oh, yes. Young. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. And then you went and did a bit of gallivanting around Canada as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I love Canada. It's my I just love Canada. It's like where my soul is, I think, sometimes. And I just love running on snow. And although it's cold there, like you don't feel it because the sun's out. I mean, you feel it, but it's not as bad as, say, here, you know. So yeah, it was an awesome trip, you know, so good after these last few years to get away.
Yeah.
You know, but it's never long enough, although it was long enough for living out of a suitcase, but it's never long enough.
Yeah. It's must have felt so good, yeah, to be traveling and seeing. You almost like feels like those places don't exist anymore because they're so far removed from it. So
I was going to say, what's an airport like these days?
Yeah, it's not as busy as it was, and it was surreal because, you know, especially going to Los Angeles. Normally, when I fly into LAX, it is like packed, and I'm always freaking out if I'm going to make my connecting flight. It was like a bloody ghost town. There was nobody where you have to go through customs and all that sort of stuff. It was empty. Like literally there's normally thousands upon thousands of people. There was like 5.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but I have to tell you my typical Isobel story. Seriously, arriving in Canada, we were told, people get randomly chosen to get tested for COVID when they arrive in Canada. We had 3 flights land from America into Canada, and only 1 person got randomly chosen. Guess who it was?
Was it Isobel, was it?
Yeah. I swear to God, out of 3 flights, I was the only one that got chosen. And I don't know what it is about me, but I always get bomb tested, drug tested, everything. And they've actually found bomb residue on me before when I've been bomb tested. Everything. I always get everything, seriously. And out of 3 flights, I was the only one. So we're like the only people left in the airport while I'm getting tested and all this sort of stuff. It was just crazy. It's seriously.
What do they do if you happen to have COVID and you don't know? What they put you back on the plane?
I would have to go into quarantine while I'm in Canada.
Oh,
so that would have been insane.
There was a lot of praying going on. So
yeah, I bet that was.
Because wouldn't that be an awesome trip? 2 weeks in quarantine.
Yeah,
that would be an awesome trip.
Yes. But luckily,
look at that snow out there. Wouldn't that be nice to run on?
Oh.
That's how you would have been.
No.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was all clear, which I kind of knew I would be, but there's always that little fear,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. I didn't have my first test for COVID at all. First PCR was last year before post-Cozy, and since then I've had about a bajillion because of all this traveling.
Yeah, crazy. Do you mind if we ask you just a couple of? I know you've probably unpacked this a fair bit already. A little bit about the that little race you did over there.
Yeah.
If you want to call it a race.
I don't know what it is.
It's an adventure.
A nightmare.
Yeah, nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. So Barkley marathons. For people who haven't been following along, Isobel got to line up in probably the toughest race on earth again.
Yeah.
And after after COVID held you back so much, and then how did it go?
Well, it went as expected. I didn't finish, surprisingly, or should I say unsurprisingly, because in fact nobody finished, and nobody got more than a fun run. But in saying that, the first woman finished a fun run for a very long time, and the course is much harder since the last woman completed a fun run. And I always knew Jasmine Paris. If anyone was going to do it, it would be Jasmine Paris, because she's awesome and amazing and a tough runner. But yeah, I went out there. It's a tough race, and you've got to go so hard right from the start when your body's cold, everything's cold, and you don't know where you're going really. You've got a map, but so it's a tough race, but this time I was never on my own. There was always someone around me. I was always paired up with someone. So it was really good in that way. I met lots of people as per usual, and it's a great experience, but it's tough, and it's a big expense and a big stress for a race that really, you're really not going to go as well as you would like, generally, so.
But you're not, he's made it so much harder now, and it's almost, because no one has finished it in a couple of years, have they?
Quite a few years, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think it's gone to the point where it's almost like too hard now, like.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, because it's like almost demotivating a little bit,
Yeah.
At least I find it is. I'm sure plenty of people find that still motivating, but like Isobel, or however you pronounce his name, this was his second crack at it, and he's a bloody good runner, and he still couldn't get beyond 3 loops. And he's an awesome runner. And even John Kelly, he had issues out there, and tapped himself out. And, you know, so many people, like awesome runners, and they're not able to even do 4 loops. So yeah, I think it's, I don't know, it's sort of, I don't know what to do, what Laz should do about it, you know, or
yeah. Does it at what point, at some point I feel like people will start to lose a bit of interest. I'll be honest, I was like kind of mildly not disappointed in you at all, but like disappointed generally that no one even got close to finishing, you know, like so like at what point does it also become, it's not a battle of fitness, because you're fit, you're damn fit, those guys are damn fit. It's so much of it's navigation and it's just toughness, isn't it? Like,
and it's beyond navigation. Like, you know, Goulian was out there and he had a page in his hand and it blew out of his hand in the wind. And it was like, well, what's the point? He pulled out because there was no point in continuing without the page, you know. And Carl got so delirious, he got lost and ended up in Petros talking to rubbish bins, and the locals called the cops on him because they thought he was insane or something. So, you know, it's gotten, I totally agree with you, Daniel, and that's what I mean by, I think it's getting demotivating, because it's like, what's the point in being interested in it, because nobody is going to be finishing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still interested, obviously people are still interested, I'm not saying that nobody is, but I think that interest will start to wane unless we get some finishes within the next year or two, you know?
Yeah.
You need people in that kind of race to get close to the finish.
Yeah, at least close.
Even if they don't finish, they're close to the finish. They're on their 5th lap.
Yeah,
and they didn't make time.
Yeah.
Something like that. When you're so far off finishing, you know, it does suddenly become, wow, is this actually doable anymore?
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes like the 4-minute mile barrier thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is more than the 4-minute mile, because it's at the point where I don't know.
I mean, like,
so yeah, and this is a construct of human, you know, this is just a human construct. We haven't, you know, it's not like the 4-minute mile where it's just trying to beat a time. This is something that's been constructed by Laz, and you know, he then has reconstructed it to make it more difficult. Will he reconstruct it now to make it less difficult? Well, goodness knows.
You could get I feel like you could get the best. I mean, you've already got some of the best runners in the world attempting it. Like, I mean, what do? You get like the Killigans or someone who's like who's supremely fitter than anyone else, like the Lithuanian who just broke the 100K world record. Did you hear about that guy? Sorokin.
Yeah.
Did 6:04 for 100 kilometers on the, you know, which is, and he's broken a number of Kouros's, Yanis Kouros's world records recently. You know, obviously that's not his domain, but I'm saying if you get like the fittest, fastest ultra runners in the world, they're probably still not going to finish it, you know, like, because there's so many factors.
Because there's so many variables. It's not just about being fast and being fit. It's about being, you know, well, obviously being able to navigate. It's also being able to be fast on off trail. Which, you know, he got that world record on what, the track or something, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I mean, you know, and you know, and dealing with unbelievably difficult weather, and you know, it's so many different things. So yeah,
Barkley is very much adventure racing more than ultra racing, because you have to self-navigate. And you are completely off track. There is no track that you're able to jump on.
Of trail, but yes, I mean, you know, in general, when you're off trail, you are off trail.
Yeah, and then you're having to make decisions fatigued, and no human makes good decisions fatigued.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. Yeah. So so the possibility of you going back ever?
To be honest, pretty slim. Like I said, it's an expensive adventure. And there's so many things I want to do, and sadly I'm not getting younger. So no, I know, right? And there's so many things I want to do, and to put all my money onto that, when, you know, it's I would like to do some other things as well. So, yeah, we shall have to see.
So it's not going to be a honeymoon at Barkley.
No. You know, the week Ron and I had there beforehand was really like a lovely holiday. There was no one else at the park. I thought there'd be heaps of other races at the park, but everyone else chose to stay at, you know, B&Bs and that. We got an awesome camper van, and it was, the weather was like 22 degrees during the day, and we would just go running and, you know, and sit around the campfire of an evening, you know, and it was a lovely holiday if I could just try and put the stress of what was coming up out of my mind. It was actually a really, really nice holiday before, you know, that week before.
Well, that bit's awesome. That's probably worth the expense.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. I feel like once you were on, and then you were probably traveling around Canada, you probably forgot about it pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Because I was pretty upset, like, and you know, kind of embarrassed because, like, I wanted to show that I could do well and people were following it, and, you know, but I sort of wallowed in it a little bit for one day, and then the next day I was like, well, you know, life, there's a rest of life, and really it's a run, and it's meant to be something we do for fun and for a challenge. And okay, so I didn't make it, but, you know, such is life. Move on, you know. You know, like the engagement, that's a bigger life experience. And for instance, and I don't mean to be a downer, but I had to put my dog down last night, and you know what? I'd originally had planned to have a Zoom chat with my pacers about my race, which I've been, you know, oh, it's so important, this race. And then last night the dog collapsed, and we had to take him to the vet, and I completely forgot everything about the race, the Zoom call, everything. And it just goes to show that although running is important, when life comes up, what's most important is life and the people, and Jack was kind of a person, the people you love, and your relationships. And yes, running's important, but everything, you know, there's so much important, and relationships are the most important thing. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
no,
you know, yeah, not to get hung up on a bad race or a bad workout or whatever. Be grateful for all the relationships you have and all the other good things, and the ability that physically, I mean, I'm 51, and you know, don't tell anyone. You know, there's a lot of people my age who couldn't run at all, you know, and so I should be grateful of what I can do. So
yeah.
I'm very sorry to hear about your dog, but running is something that adds to life. It is not something that is essential to life, although some of us would consider it that at times. Yes, but it is definitely the base of life is not running.
Yeah.
That is an addition. It is more of an icing on the cake.
Yes.
And, you know, if you're having a bad day and you miss out on the icing, but you're still eating cake, it's a pretty good day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry about your dog. I my dog's getting old as well. He's 13, and he's a chunky dog now. And I mean, he's still got a few good years left in him, but the kids ask about, when's he going to die? And I'm like, don't ask that. I don't know. I think because I've had the dog longer than I've had the kids, and so I think I'll be the one that won't deal with it. Just so I'm really sorry to hear about your Jack. Yeah. So
he was.
They are definitely members of the family. There's no doubt about that.
And he was the dog that we got sort of at the start of all the lockdowns, and he really got us through. You know.
The focus.
Yeah. So anyway, enough. You know.
Yeah.
So look, I think Barkley was a great experience, but you know, I had to move on from that, because the first time I did it, I got really upset about not doing well, and it hung around with me for a while, and that wasn't good for my mental health. So this time, you know, I think I learned a lot about how to deal with that sort of stuff, and I think I often see athletes who get really upset when a race doesn't go well, but I think, if you put it in the perspective of life, you can see that it's still a great experience that you can learn from and still reflect on well. You know, it was still an awesome experience, and like I said, I met fun people and awesome people, you know, I'm glad I did it, but it didn't turn out the way I wanted, you know.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
But you've got so much more to look forward to. You've got a reasonably big race coming up.
Oh, I know.
You're doing DU 135?
Yes. And
Yeah.
there's another one, like I don't know what the course is yet because they haven't put it out. And that's what we were going to have the Zoom call about last night, you know, just to talk about trying to figure out where to meet, but like seeing as we don't know the course, I don't know. So yeah, so that's another one. It's probably more of a hiking course than a running course. So
yeah, well that's the same sort of deal. It's completely off track, unknown course until a couple of weeks out.
Couple of days.
135 miles of hell. Yeah.
And ultimately only 2 people finished last year, and they were men, no women finished. And to be honest, I looked at the starting list. I think there's only 4 women entered this year, and I think there's only about 36 people entered in total. So yeah.
You should do
definitely a hardcore race.
Yeah.
After this, you should go out and just like do a half marathon or something, Isobel.
Well,
or a park run where the course is marked and there's all these people around.
I'm doing a race every month just for something different. But they're they're mountain races. Like I'm doing the Bright 42K, which will take me, that's got like so much elevation. And then in July, I'm coming to South Australia to do the Ultra Adelaide or something, but it's a 50K.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
And then in August, we're doing Wonderland. I'll have to find something for September. So yeah, I'm doing just like around 50Ks, which is kind of like a half marathon for ultra runs.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Oh, well, when you come to Adelaide, because you were going to come a while back, but then COVID and shit.
This is the rollover. We've chosen this race as the rollover. So yeah.
We've got to go for a couple of runs then.
Yeah.
So your race, the Down Under 135, is the same weekend. I'm doing a race as well, actually.
What are you doing?
There's a run. It's called the Run Adelaide 100. It's 120 kilometers, and it's around. So even though they call it 100,
I love it. Ultra race.
It's good. It's good rounding. They did maths well at school.
Yeah, Rob, that 20 Ks is valuable. It's it's not an extra 5. It's almost an extra half marathon, and I'm going to feel that. It actually will be the second furthest I've ever run. So yeah. So but yeah, it's just essentially it's a giant, enormous loop of Adelaide. So it starts and finishes.
You're doing the outskirts.
Yeah, you run along the river. You start at West Beach, which is down on the.
Is it on like bike path or is it on? What's it on?
So it's mixed terrain. So the first 30 kilometres is all along the bike path that goes next to the Torrens River, or the mighty River Torrens. And then we go up into the Adelaide Hills and across a little bit on really like treacherous trail. And then there's lots of country dirt roads, and then there's more treacherous trail. There's lots of navigation because it's actually a route that was designed by the Adelaide, like a hiking club, and the Adelaide Walkers or whatever. And so the route hasn't even been fully, they're still finalising the actual course because there's heaps of sections where you are on private property and stuff. So getting all permissions for that.
What's that race called?
Run Adelaide 100.
Just looking it up on my phone. That's really interesting.
And then it finishes.
Isabel's just adding it to her list for 2023.
And then it runs down, and you finish. You go down onto so you spend first 35 on flat, and then the next 70 kilometers is through the hills and trails and roads, and then you come out on the beach way down at Seacliff, and it's 15 kilometers dead straight north going along the beach to finish where you started.
Are you actually on the beach, or are you on that path that's up on top of the bank?
Excellent. Have you seen the map?
I'm just looking at it. I mean, because I love doing my runs as a loop, right? That is the most awesome loop. Oh my God, I want to do that.
You should. Next year, come and do it.
Yes.
It's Ben Hawkins is
Ben Hawkins. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just because he should direct lots of races, but now he's
given up race directing.
He's just got these races. He's just got 4 races that he directs. It's part of a series.
This is retirement directing.
Yeah, he's got.
And it's called. I like it. He calls it the Ultra Hard Series.
Yeah. So the idea of it is, if you want to be on the podium, you're not allowed to have a pacemaker. So just adding, and there's lots more self-sufficiency required. So sort of like it's sort of up your alley a bit there, Isobel, because it's sort of, I like that idea that he doesn't want to hold people's hand as much. So there's not as many aid stations. And so you've got to be like, I've had to do this, like a fair bit of really sort of analysing the course, knowing where to make the right turns and stuff like that, because it's not heaps clear.
To be honest, I think for 120 Ks, you don't really need a pacer. Like,
no.
You can manage. Yeah, I'm going to have a look at all those other races. That looks really interesting. I love that loop. What a cool race.
It's a good idea. And I mean, like, to be able to start and finish in the one spot, there's been a handful of people that have done the loop as an FKT.
Oh,
I think the current record is held by Sonia Janssens, she's a friend of mine. She's a great runner. She did it in 14 hours, but that was with lots of navigation issues. And so, she did about 14 hours.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I'm
14 hours is flying.
I'd like to do around 14 if things go well. But I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. And so because the biggest risk is, because you have to really know how to pace it, because you start flat, then you go hills, then you finish flat. You've got to be really careful that you don't spend too much on the flats early on, because you can really, if you run it like at marathon pace, you're going to destroy yourself. So
Plus the Adelaide hills aren't exactly, they're steep hills.
They're short and steep. Yeah, there's a lot of short ups and downs, and some of the sections like it's kind of savage. Yeah. So anyway, but that's good. So and the down under 135 obviously is just a vert. It's just another punishing race with lots and lots of vert. Yeah.
It is a vert fest.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got supposedly, because I don't know the course, for 217 kilometres, it's got about 13,000 metres of vert. But it's short, steep, and we went and practiced a bit on the old course, and some we were climbing it, and it's steep, but it's also you're sliding back, so it's not just standard steep. So so it's a hike fest more than anything, because a lot of it is that kind of trail that you can't run on. But I mean, but I think after this, I want to do some races that aren't quite so
hardcore.
Yeah. I don't know. I want it to be hard, but like not so mentally hard. Like, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
something where you can just switch off and enjoy the music.
Yeah, a little bit. And in saying that, Daniel, I'm going to enter the wild. You're doing that, aren't you?
Yeah. Are you going to enter it?
Yeah.
No, look, that's the big. So this race I'm doing is basically kicking off my actual training season for that. Everything I'm doing this year is geared towards that.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you've had a good look at it. It looks amazing, eh? It's another look course.
Yeah, it looks awesome. So, I want to do this race, whether I finish or not or whatever, and then enter because,
Awesome. You've got to make sure you contact, you'll get because I think the Wala was sold out, but I'm sure there'll be a place for you.
You can always pick the beautiful thing about those races is just before the race you pick up a ticket, because some fools injured themselves or they've got to go for a work trip or something like that, and you can always grab that ticket. If you want the long courses, if you want the short courses, those things are like sold out for months.
Also, I know is absolutely, Ashley. The bloody they've held a place. They're holding a place for because Anna Frost is doing it. She's the race ambassador. She's great, but she's great friends with Killian and with Courtney, and she's they've been invited to come and run. And I mean, I'd love it if either of those two athletes came. I'd be like, because there's only 300 people in the 100 miler, so actually get to meet these incredible athletes. I mean, it's not as big a deal for someone I'd be such a fanboy. I think Killian, if I was going to be a fanboy on anyone, it'd be Killian. I think he's just so good. I'm running in his shoes at the moment. I've got a pair of Salomon Pulsars. And they're so good. They're super light and bouncy, and they're good trail shoes. But so I just keep.
Daniel, we should move on to you.
Yes.
enough about me and Down Under and everything else. Let's talk about respecting the race distance that we're racing. Did you want to talk to us about your experience with that?
Oh, so we did a race a few weeks ago up in the Barossa, which is wine country here in Adelaide, and it's where all the good wines come from. And this race, it's called Punkt zu Punkt, which is German. It means point to point. And the ironic thing was it starts and finishes in the same spot. So it's not really, but it's probably one of the funnest races I've ever done. We went into it as just a bit of a, like, I didn't have serious expectations. Like, it was just meant to be fun. And so I was like 33 kilometers, it's nothing. But I didn't even think about my nutrition or fueling at all, really. And I treated it, I didn't give it the respect it deserved. Like, it's still 33 kilometers. And it's a really weird race too. It's, again, first 5 kilometers, you start in this beautiful vineyard, and then first 5 kilometers is along just flat road, and then you go bang and you hit the hills and you go up into this conservation park called Kaiserstuhl, and there's a massive climb and you go right up, and then for the next however far, 15, 20 kilometers, it's just lots of little undulations. I call it death by a million undulations. That kind of terrain, like where it's up, down, up, down.
Do.
Yeah, it's not, no, there's only a couple of like significant hills in there, but they were just lots of short. Anyway, and I went in, and about 12 Ks in, I could really feel, because you do this big climb to get up to the conservation park. And I was like, oh, I've gone out a bit too quick. And then I thought, oh, I'll just back it off a bit. But my hamstrings and my glutes were screaming. And then I was like, oh, it's all right, I'll just back it off. But then I backed it off, and then I had to back it off a little bit more. And then I had to back it off a little bit more. And then I went past the last aid station, which was 9 Ks out from the finish. And I was a little bit thirsty. And I had maybe I only took 500 mils with me, the fluid.
For 33 Ks?
Yeah.
Daniel.
I know. No, well, the plan was...
This is a very good case of do as I say, not as I do.
Yes.
And I've never... I have to say, I'm always so meticulous with my fueling, and that I really am. So this one, I hadn't even actually thought about it. I thought, 500 mils should do. But then it actually turned out to be a little bit warmer than I anticipated. And there was quite a strong breeze that day. And then, so I was coming down to the front.
Be honest, Daniel, even, sorry to interrupt, even on a cool day,
500
not enough.
I'd get away with 500 mils on a cool day.
Really?
I really would. Yeah.
I don't, listeners, please, we don't advocate for that. It would be lovely to have more.
You know what? But no, what happened? I ended up getting into this little battle with this one other guy who was probably about 20 years younger than me, and I was like, I want to just. He kept passing me, and then I'd pass him, but it was like a race to the grave, because we both were dying in the ass. And
so this was Steven Spielberg's The Duel as 2 runners instead of 2 trucks, eh?
Pretty much. And the whole race, we barely spoke to each other, but we were pushing each other along. It was one of those runs. And then I went past the last aid station, and I thought I had about a little bit of, I had just about
Can I ask also what nutrition you took with you?
I had 3 Morton gels, and I had a Pure as well. So those.
What's that? A gel?
It's a gel, Pure. It's a New Zealand. It's like, they're a lot like Spring energy gels, but they're very they're a bit more liquidy. And then and I sort of paused at this aid station, but I thought, oh no, it's only like 9 kilometers to the finish, and like 3.5 of those kilometers are downhill. So I just and then I got to the bottom, and then I got to 5 Ks. I hit the bottom, and it's like, when you let a balloon go and all the goes, that's what I felt like when I hit the bottom. I hit the flat, and I had nothing. I was like a deflated.
Someone grabbed a piano and whacked it on your back, did they?
Yeah, he's cooked. The piano, he's cooked.
And like I'd had all the warning signs, but I was just like, okay, just jog it in, and then it went like I would say last 2 kilometers, I fully hit the wall. Like I actually had to walk. I just walked running most of the way, like, and then.
Oh, Daniel, I hope, oh my golly, like if one of my clients did this, I would be horrified.
I've shared
look at Isobel. Isobel is squirming in her chair.
I am.
Listening to this. She is just, it's horrifying.
I'll tell you what else I did. And then so with like 400 meters to go, so we're actually on the property of the vineyard. So we're literally almost there. I lost 3 places in the last 400 meters. I still finished 10th overall.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then I had but I walked. I was walking, and I was like, because I was dizzy. I was like, I'm dehydrated. I'm a dickhead. Don't worry, I'm Isobel. Yeah, and then I sort of jogged across the finish line. Beautiful setting for the finish. Like great race. There was a lady playing guitar and singing.
Wine?
I was about to say, start drinking wine now, you'd be smashed.
They gave us
for Daniel.
Every single finisher got a bottle of wine at the finish line. But I walked straight over to the aid station and I sat down, and the lady at aid station, this older lady, she goes, "Oh, he looks a bit wobbly." And so I said, she gave me a glass of water. I just drank the whole thing straight away. I said, "Can I have another one?" And I sat down, and over the next 15 minutes, I drank like 5 glasses of water and 8, and then I finally started to feel better. But it was just like that. There was like a full-on lesson, as it was a reminder of what not to do, and I'm fully aware of it. And I've shared this with most of my athletes, because it was because I didn't really acknowledge the distance properly in my mind. I kind of guess treating it like
I mean, when I'm at home on a training run, I'll do 20, 25 Ks in the hills, and I won't take food or water with me. I agree.
Yeah.
But it's different when you're racing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess I got that a little bit competitive for a while there, where I was like, so I did push a bit, but it just goes to show what a difference the fluid hydration makes. Even just the
huge.
Dude, that 500 mils, it was 500 mils of the liquid Morton. So it was, yeah. You don't like it?
Oh, I just can't imagine not having water. You've got gels and
yeah.
And that, what would you have to wash the gels down with? Like, oh God, I'd be like, ugh.
More sugar. No, normally because I just had a handheld. I didn't even carry a pack.
Oh my God, so it would have been warm too.
I can see your new advertising campaign, Daniel. I am the best coach because I've done all the stupid stuff already, and I can teach you how not to.
Yeah. I'm like that Paul Kelly song, "Dumb Things." That's me.
That's right. Yep. I've done all the dumb things. Yeah.
Yeah, but in saying all that, I always say, there's no failures. There's just lessons.
Yes, I'll tell you.
And some big ones.
Yeah, and look, and I did. And then last weekend I went out for a long run. I did about 50K or 51 kilometers to be precise. And I drank, and I was really aware. I was like, okay, I want to drink a lot more. And it made such a difference. I had a bottle of Morton, but I also had a bottle of that I was just refilling with water all the time. And I felt so good. My energy levels remained high for the entire 50 Ks. And it's amazing. You just forget how much your body needs. When you're fueling properly all the time, you almost take it for granted. Yeah. That I had this "she'll be right, mate" attitude. I didn't sit down and go, oh, 33 kilometers should take me about this long. Like I usually do a bit of an estimate, so yeah, it was a mistake. And
why do you think you didn't do all of that?
Huh?
Why didn't you do all of that? Like,
because we were there as a bit of a family holiday, and it was like we were staying at the caravan park with the kids, and we're swimming, and it was sort of like, it was super like I say, I wouldn't even call it a C race. I'd call it like a D race. But But yeah, and my wife.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but like 33 kilometers is still 33 kilometers.
Yes,
it's nothing
exactly.
to sneeze at. And but my wife, she smashed it.
Yeah, think of it as a good depletion run, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
saying that, I just did a speed session, and it was sensational. I felt great because I fueled. But my just big shout out to my wife. She finished third lady. She's
wow, congratulations.
She's absolutely flying along. And it was a kind of race, best race. I'd say it's the best race on the calendar up here, because it's that the place getters all got actual prize money. Like she got on top of getting the bottle of wine for finishing, she got a $50 wine voucher from this mob called Chaffee Brothers. So I'm giving them a free shout out because their wine is great, and $50 cold hard cash as well. And I don't know what second and first got, but my wife, she's never really been on the podium, and so she was. I mean, she has, but this is not. She just was wrapped. It was pretty cool.
Now, to make it political, was this part of someone's election campaign?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, no, it's just the
handing out money left, right, and centre.
The winery, just good marketing, because yeah. But it was nice. It was a nice atmosphere there. But yeah, so that's the lesson. Is never. Yeah. I think it's important for people to do a bit of calculations. I mean, we always go approximately. How long do you think? 33 kilometers or whatever.
Can I ask, did your wife take fluids and food and whatnot?
Yeah, she was smarter than Daniel.
The only difference is she just stopped at the aid station, because there's only one aid station.
Yeah, so, I mean, you don't have to take stuff if you're planning on stopping at the aid stations, but if you...
Yeah, I should have, because I hesitated at the aid station, but there was someone at the water, and I didn't want to, it was just that stupid thing. It's like, I adopted this she'll be right attitude. I didn't realize how far that 9 kilometers was going to smash me. And but it's that's not something I'll do in a hurry ever again. Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. So Ashley, now we wanted to talk about how your return to running is going, and how listeners can apply that to themselves, perhaps.
Slowly.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's been a very interesting learning curve. I've had to accept a few truths that I would tell my athletes and don't necessarily follow, but have to follow a bit more now, and that's rest. You actually need to take rest, and 24 hours isn't always enough rest.
No.
Sometimes you need 48, sometimes you need 72. So there's that. But the most interesting thing for me at the moment is the whole barefoot thing. So I was trying to run again with shoes, and it was just crippling, like literally crippling. It was incredibly painful, and I was getting niggles and stuff like that. And I was noticing that when I was walking around barefoot, nothing hurt. And so I just started running barefoot. And when I say I started running barefoot, I actually had someone pull me over the other day and say, "How are you running barefoot? I can't even walk barefoot." It was actually a council worker. A council worker literally came up to me on the oval and asked the question, which was kind of weird.
In regards to they couldn't because of the, needing to toughen up your feet, or because of the biomechanics of it? What were they referring to?
I think they were referring to toughening up their feet.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So I just started with walking 100 meters, running 10, walking 100 meters, running 10, and I've just been doing it on the oval. I have now progressed to doing cross country on the grass. I have to say that I do prefer that it's rained overnight and then I go running, because the ground is just that bit softer. You really do notice the difference in terrain when you are barefoot, and you really start to look for stuff more.
Yeah. Well, how are you going to progress your runs? Because surely you're limited with the surfaces that you can run on. You don't want to be running on concrete with bare feet, and you can't run on rocky trails and whatnot barefoot. So you can't, but by the same token, you can't continue to just run on ovals only. So
no, so that's going to be an interesting step. Basically, I am going to try and start conditioning my feet to dirt roads. and running barefoot, true barefoot dirt roads. I have purchased barefoot shoes now, and they definitely work, but I'm still getting a little bit of discomfort from those compared with completely
what
barefoot.
discomfort do you get?
So it's I just get my heels and my knees just get a little bit more uncomfortable. And biomechanically things are working better barefoot. So I don't know what's changed.
Have you had those pains like before all of this? Did you get
No, this is all new.
I wonder why.
So I dare say that with the surgery and putting my knees back together, or my knee back together, it's just changed things in there.
Obviously, yeah.
And there was a significant amount of muscle wastage, and I am rebuilding that muscle.
Yeah.
And I do wonder whether, as kids, I would have spent a lot of my childhood barefoot.
Yeah, same.
And then, only put on shoes later on. And I'm wondering whether I'm sort of back at that spot where I'm going to have to build up barefoot and then work back into shoes as time goes on. But I am progressing well. I have reset everything. That's probably the most important part, is I've accepted the fact that all of my PBs that I have had in the past are done. And I'd already done that. When I got cancer and I was recovering from my first lot of surgery, and I just went, right, okay, well, I'm starting from zero, because I was literally learning to walk again at that point.
A whole different person and a whole different athlete.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm operating with a different body. Yes. And I've just accepted that again. I've just gone, right, this is a fresh start again. Basically, all those records, forget them all. You are starting afresh. And so my fastest 5K was this morning. And I have, I did that in 27 and a half minutes. So that felt really good.
Which people would be wrapped with anyway.
Yeah. So that felt really good. And I'm really happy with that. It was not uncomfortable. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't uncomfortable. And the longest I've run is 15 kilometers. So,
that's good.
And I've got to say that.
Can I ask, was that pure running, or did you have some walking breaks still?
Oh yeah, no, that definitely had walking breaks in it.
Yeah.
So I am still very much walking intermittently.
Yep.
And still using that as a recovery at this point in time.
A lot of runners don't understand that when you return to running, you need to include walking.
Yeah, you've got to let your muscles get that elasticity back in them.
Yeah.
And you don't need a lot of walking. I'm probably walking in every kilometer that I'm still running sub 6 minute kilometers of when I'm running, but if you add walking, then they become a 7 minute kilometer.
Yeah.
And so, I'm walking 100 meters in each kilometer on that 15K K go. So, yeah.
Can I ask
it
a
adds
question?
up, of course.
I feel like I've missed something. And why? So why are we going fully barefoot? Like, what's the reasoning behind it?
Oh, I wasn't able to run in shoes.
Because of the discomfort, yeah.
It was just uncomfortable. Like excruciatingly painfully uncomfortable. And then I couldn't actually walk afterwards. Like, I would go out for a run in shoes and I couldn't walk. Like, I would get up out of a chair and not be able to walk.
Is it contingent on whether the shoes have a drop or if they're zero drop shoes, or even possibly like those finger shoes? Could you do that?
So I've used finger shoes in the past, mostly because of walking through creeks and stuff. And I'm not a great fan of them for myself personally. I don't like that whole toe separation thing. Feels weird. But the shoes that I've bought now are Merrell.
So which ones have you bought now? Oh, Merrell. Okay, yep.
Yeah, so I've bought the Merrell, I don't know what they are, zeros or something. But they're a barefoot running shoe. They've got a very nice wide toe box, and they're dead flat.
Like thin, or is there any padding, or what is it on the bottom?
There is no internal padding. So there's no what do you call it? The bit that goes in the bottom of the shoe that people
Insole?
replace. Inner sole, thank you. There's no inner sole. It's all just stitched together, and it's probably it'd be about 4 mil thick.
Yeah, because the Vibrams were just like the material, just that's it. So
Yeah.
Merrell's got a little bit more than that, or is it like the Vibrams?
Oh, it's pretty thin. I'd be guessing 4 or 5 millimeters.
I think you should transition eventually to something like the Ultra, because they're all 0 drop, but they're proper trail shoes, and they, you know, I know it's a big step. Have you seen Ultras? Are you familiar with Ultras?
No, I basically, when I went and bought the Merrells, I tried on a bunch of different barefoot shoes, and the Merrells just felt the best. So I've just gone with those, and that's what they've what I've been wearing to work, and, you know, wearing around and just walking around as such. And then when I'm running at the moment, I'm still running completely barefoot.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder what race directors' policies would be on people running completely barefoot.
Well, I know you can't do a triathlon barefoot. Like that's definitely illegal. They did go through a phase of deciding whether they were going to make that legal or illegal, and they made it illegal. They said, no, you've got to have shoes. I'm sure shoe manufacturers had something to do with that.
But not just that. I think because insurance-wise, if something happens, and then they've got to be responsible for making sure the course is clear of any
Exactly.
You know, and it opens up so many legal issues. I think that's what I am asking, because I think for a trail run event, I can't imagine it being allowed, because, oh my God, imagine if something happened and, you know, like the legalities would be horrendous.
Yeah, so I can imagine running in sandals. No, I can imagine that being quite effective. Yeah. So,
and one of my clients, he runs in sandals, those special sandals for running, and he likes it because he has issues with his feet. I mean, I personally wouldn't like it, especially when it's raining, and that your foot would sort of slide around a bit, I reckon. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, definitely once sandals get wet, you do slide around in them. There's no doubt about that. They're not gloved as such. Yeah. So yeah, you've got a lot more freedom in there. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm able to run, and I'm stoked to be doing that.
Yeah, and you're doing what works for your body. Which is what, you know, when we're drilling down to the nitty gritty of this, is like taking it slow, adding in walk breaks, running barefoot. That's what's working for your body and enabling you to get back to running. And what listeners or other people need to do is try these different things and see what works for them.
Yeah. So my plan is to race an ultra by the end of the year. And I've already been thinking about that course and going, oh, could I run that barefoot? And the answer is I don't think I could, because 25 kilometers of it is on road and concrete.
Yes.
And, you know, that's just, I can't see running on concrete doing anything but damage.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
The human body, the pavement, the road maybe, but yeah, concrete, no way. That stuff's just too hard.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
So some sort of solution will have to be found before then. But at this point, I'm just going to keep building up. I know that, strengthening. And then the next thing I want to do is start to head into the mountains. And I'm honestly going to try heading into the mountains barefoot, but I'm going to take shoes with me. Yeah. So I was that if it doesn't work out, I've got them with me and I can just put, you know, the barefoot shoes on. But if I can go completely barefoot, I'll try it.
Of the ultras are a good one. They are.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, good shoe.
Yeah.
So it is good for my bank balance. I haven't had to blow my shoe budget yet this year.
Yeah.
So you know, there is that positive side of it.
Shoes?
Hey?
What's that?
How much are those barefoot shoes?
I said to somebody else that barefoot shoes are a bit like bikinis. The less shoe there is, the more expensive they get.
Yeah, yeah. So how much do they cost? Come on, tell us.
They're 170 odd bucks.
Oh, right.
Yeah. You could get a pair of Dunlop volleys or something like that have very little cushioning, and just they're only about 40 or 50 bucks. And
I have tried running in those in the past. The problem is I wore them out in about 50 Ks.
Yeah.
Well, they're pretty cheap though. If you're running around, still running on grass and that. But I truly think that you could gradually progress to more cushiony shoes, because obviously you've got to weigh up if you want to get back to those ultras and back to climbing up hill in mountains and stuff. I mean, reality is you're going to have to put some shoes on your feet at some stage. And
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And so I think it's great that what you're doing. And I love taking my shoes off at the end of a workout and doing, like, if I'm doing strides on the grass, And especially if it's like a freshly, like on the AFL pitch, on the it's so nice and just spongy. And the one down at North Adelaide here, the Uni Loop, I go down there and just it feels amazing because it's so well taken care of, and you're there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's no one, or there's people around doing exactly what I'm doing, and so it just feels good. You feel like a kid.
I have learned a few things, like Thursdays is a really good run day because Fridays they mow. And once they take that little bit of length out of the grass, you really do feel it.
Yeah.
Like, and you start to really look for different types of grass. And you also avoid anywhere where there's bare dirt. Bare dirt packs down really quickly.
Almost like concrete. Yeah. Yeah.
So, so it's definitely, I'm learning to run, when you start trail running and you just sort of blunder along when you first trail run. And then as you get smarter at trail running, you start to pick your line because you know that certain surfaces will be that little bit faster or you'll feel more efficient. I suggest that running barefoot is like a step above that. You're actually now really looking for different types of turf and different types of grass. And you really start to look at what you're about to put your foot on.
Hones your ability to choose a good line.
Yeah. So I'm definitely getting that. When I'm running cross country now, I am choosing my line very carefully.
Yeah.
And also keeping an eye out for the glass and for the, anything that's going to puncture your foot. You are well and truly looking out for that. I can tell you now that I can pick out weeds 10 meters ahead that have got prickles on them. Like you can see them and you go, yep, I'm not stepping on that. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Definitely getting more attuned.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, that's great. So there we have it. We've talked about Barkley, we've talked about respecting the race distance, and we've talked about returning to running. Do we have anything quick we want to just...
No, for me, we're for Australia, we're heading into the best time of year for running.
Oh yeah. May is the best month, hands down. Just generally.
Autumn is awesome, isn't it? The cool, crisp mornings, the beautiful clear days.
But not too cold.
Yeah. Not too cold and not too hot. It's just absolutely ideal. You get to crack a sweat, but you get to cool down afterwards.
So and like just May's the time to crank up your mileage. And also I love when you can suddenly feel the full effects of your fitness in cool weather, because in summer your body's just working just that harder to stay cool. Then when like today on my speed session, I was like doing it mostly by feel. I was doing 1K repeats, and everything just felt far easier because it was cooler. I was cold to begin with, and that's a lovely feeling, a lovely place. Yeah. So get out there and crank those. Crank it up. I want to say we should do this on a regular basis. Is hot training tip for the week.
Okay, yes, give us one.
All right, my hot training. This is, people often ask me, and I know you guys have probably been asked, like, what's the best running hack you know of? And this is a running hack that is not actually a running hack, and that is the best bang for your buck is go out and do your strides regularly. They're easy, and so basically it's about 100 meters, and just at the end of I do it at the end of an easy run or in the last kilometer of my easy run. You just accelerate up to much faster than race pace, but you only hold it for a few seconds.
That's it. And it's not an all-out sprint, so we're not busting a gut completely. It's
exactly. And the whole thing of it is it's not supposed to be that strenuous on the body. And then I walk for 50 or 100 meters and then do at least 3 of those a couple of times a week, and you'll feel so much more. It just makes everything feel good, And
I find the same sort of thing when I go out, and if I look at my watch and I go, oh, I'm not pulling the pace that I want to pull today, I will then do a sprint walk for 500, 600, 700 meters. and then I will come back up and my pace will have automatically increased. So I really like to use striders to actually bring my pace up to the pace that I'd like to be sitting at. I also agree with you, doing them at the end of a run is just awesome. Like that's how you get that, what's it called? The synaptic change anyway, in your musculature for the next day.
Neuromuscular stuff going on when you do strides, because it's, and it's not just, but I think a lot of people have this idea that everything that we do when we're doing any kind of speed has to be strenuous. Like it doesn't.
Exactly, it doesn't. No.
But
the hot tip for racing for people who are going to do a race is take more than 500 mils of water. That's the hot tip.
I was about to say it's got to be hydrate, doesn't it? Yeah.
No way, man.
Sorry, I just had to harp on that one again.
No. Did you know back in the day, in the marathons, back in the early Olympic life, they never drank.
I know.
But that's also, and they were still doing it in like 2.5.
Yeah.
I know. But yeah. No, lesson learned. And look, I've never stopped learning, but also, never take it for granted. But no, it's all good. And has either of you got a hot training tip for the day? Or
that was my hot training tip.
My hot training tip would just be, if you're comfortable running barefoot, run barefoot. If you need to wear, like something that everybody else is not wearing because that's what is comfortable for you, it's running at the end of the day. It's not a fashion statement. Yeah. It is you getting out and just enjoying running.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes.
Yep. Good advice. And
Ash, you should get yourself a good pair of thongs for our American audience. That's the flip flops. Yeah. And just strap them to your foot a bit better. Done. Look at that. Just a little bit.
That might be the go. Yeah, it might be that with some gaffer tape.
What about some Crocs?
Crocs. Jeez, I can only imagine what my feet would smell like after wearing those for a few kilometres. Wow.
No, don't use Crocs. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will do this again in a month. This time it will be a month. So have a good training block, everyone, and let's catch up then.
Yep, sure. Awesome. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.